do you look at the impact that Bitcoin will have outside of, you probably get wealthy from it?
Yeah, no, so that's kind of like I said, that's the political side of my explanation. You have to understand that to understand it holistically. And you're right. I mean, if you go to most people and tell them, if you use human rights and Bitcoin in the same sentence, they look at you like you're from outer space. It's just, it would make no sense to them, right? So that was the reason why I asked Alex Gladstein to write the foreword, because he's chief strategy officer at the Human Rights Foundation, and this is what he does. So I'm sure it shocks a lot of people to see someone from the human rights world write a foreword about Bitcoin, right? But I wanted that, but yeah, I think personally, I think that is its biggest, its most impactful aspect will be the human rights angle. In fact, I think the relationship between violence, war, and Bitcoin is one of the most underappreciated aspects of Bitcoin. Right? If you look at the history of conflict, all wars have been fought over either defense or trying to acquire physical property, physical resources. The resource curse is a term you might have heard. Like parts of the world that had abundant resources have been the greatest victims of conquests. Right? You take Africa, India, and so on, European conquests, and South America, and so on. It's always been humans in seeking physical wealth, physical resources that has resulted in violence, perpetration of terrible acts of violence throughout history for tens of thousands of years. Now, what happens if you dematerialize property, right? And you make it. This is something that Trace Meyer, actually, the first time I heard this was from Trace Meyer, where he says that you make it uneconomic. It's just there's no return on investment if you invest in trying to take away or sort of conquer somebody else and take their property, because it's impossible now. What does that do to societies, civilizations? I think it remains to be seen, and I think it's going to be tremendously impactful. Just the simple dematerialization of physical property, I think, is profound.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to see the full impact of Bitcoin in that regard, because it is, we are so early in the first 15 years of this revolution. And if you just think back of the first 15 years of anything, you have no clue what the next 15, 20 years will bring. When we look at when the kind of the first internet protocols and the first connected networks came across, let's say in 1990 or that era, you had no clue that 20 years later there's like a YouTube, there is zooming around the world, there's Google that makes it easy, and then zoom another 15 years later, we have now AI that where you can speak towards, and it is like a personal assistant that knows everything about the world and is actually really good in digesting information, helping you with tasks, and then take this and take it another 15 years out. It's scary how fast those things really develop. And because we are in the moment, it's really hard for us to understand how quick this actually is happening, because it seems slow. But look at the AI videos of Will Smith 2 years ago eating spaghettis, and look at the AI videos that Google just released, this VU model, and it's freakingly good. Like that is movie material that you can do now with AI. Just look in 5 years. You have no clue if that's AI Robin or real Robin that sits here. Like you have just no way of knowing, because AI is so good. I can guarantee you that already. It will be a really fun time for content creators.
Yeah, no, it's 100%, 100%. Yeah, and it's that's why I think Bitcoin is a very interesting counterpoint to AI in a world where you're not going to know what is real in the digital realm of ones and zeros. here you have something that you can hold on to, which you can actually trade as if it were physical property, yet in the digital realm. Is that very interesting counterpoint to AI?
I also, it's really interesting when you think about an AI, a post AI world, or like an actual AI world where you can copy anything and it looks super real. We will have to make somehow sure how to verify that this is from a real person. And I think real person things will be a lot more valuable than anything else, because people really probably they probably will get so sick from all the AI content that the human content and the human touch of things will be so freaking valuable, because it's like such a small portion of the overall internet. So I'm just so grateful to be alive at that very time. Honestly, it's like AI, Bitcoin, and there's like 1,000 other things that I'm excited about.
Yeah, no, 100%. I know. I think AI is gonna, yeah, sort of, you're not going to be able to trust anything that you see online, and that's such a big shift from, you know, this old sort of thing, like, post a photo or it didn't happen. That used to be a thing, right? But now it's, yeah, posting a photo doesn't mean it happened. It has no value whatsoever. So we've moved into that, you know it's I was thinking about this the other day. You go back before the internet and the digital era of sharing photos and so on. We lived in darkness. The world was kind of because you couldn't see. You had to get physical analog photos mailed, sent to you in the mail, and you don't know what your family members or your friends are doing in another part of the world or whatever. Sort of, it was kind of a dark place to be, right? Because you couldn't see things through to digital photography. And now we went through this, 20 plus years of Instagram and seeing all these amazing things, amazing photos, and seeing what was happening around the world. And now we've, in a weird way, come back to darkness again, because you cannot trust. You see all these things, but you don't know what is real. So it's a weird kind of paradoxical thing. It's like we're going to be cast once again into darkness in not, in not being able to trust anything that is online.
Yeah, and in a weird way, it might really value up the physical experiences, like going. I think we talked about before we're going to the Vegas conference, and it's like you really value those, because this is like a true way of knowing, hey, this person is real. Maybe at some point the robots can be so freaking good that you don't even know in real life, wait, are you even real? Like, like how do you prove that?
I don't think hardware. So they say that people always um, overestimate the speed at which hardware gets adopted and underestimate the speed at which software gets adopted. So hardware, I don't think robots are just suddenly going to take over everything. It's because it's hardware, it's physical. You need to roll out. You can't just produce like a million robots and roll them out, right? Whereas software, you just create something, Copilot, and every single, Microsoft PC on the planet has Copilot installed, right? That is the speed at which software can be adopted. So we always underestimate that and overestimate hardware. So I don't really see robots taking over the world, but certainly, everything online is going to be changed very, very radically.
Yeah, that's very true. I have one question to ask each and every one of my guests, and the question is, what can we learn from you besides Bitcoin?
Well, I'm a lawyer, and I'm a structured finance derivatives person. That's what I've done for the last 20 years. So if you want to learn about what happened in the 2008 financial crisis, The Big Short, if you want to understand, the movie The Big Short, and sort of the book as well about that by Aaron Sorkin. Yeah, I can talk about that because I was there and I did that stuff myself. So that's yeah.
Very cool. We have an entertain. I mean, the Big Short is always super interesting because there's so many I think the movie, for example, the Big Short is kind of a Bitcoiner movie for me. It's always like when you're a Bitcoiner, you're like, oh, it's relatable.
Yeah, I think the Matrix and the Big Short are, maybe the top two Bitcoiner movies. Maybe V for Vendetta as well. Maybe.
Oh man, I haven't seen that. I have to look at that. I think some people already mentioned that.
It's more of a cypherpunk kind of world thing. It's not necessarily, it's V for Vendetta is the Guy Fawkes, sort of the Mask, it's Natalie Portman. It's a good movie. Yeah, watch it.
Awesome. Perfect. And we have an end routine in the podcast, as you probably know, where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the question, what's one way that Bitcoin can change the world that most people don't talk about?
I think it's the one I just talked about. I think the impact on war and violence that arises from the dematerialization of property, I think, is the most underestimated aspect of Bitcoin. Nobody talks about it. People talk about inflation, sure, store of value, sure, but whatever peer-to-peer transfers, privacy, and all those things, sure. But I think far more important, far more impactful, I think, will be its impact on literally on wars and on violence. I think that's kind of how I would see it.
Yeah, it's something that it's not on top of the minds that get interested in Bitcoin because they see the number go up technology. They see like, oh, I get wealthy, or I've saved 4,000 euros now. I have like 6,000 and those smaller things. But this ending or limiting physical wars and having something immaterial, and also the thing that you can have it yourself and people can show up to your house and you can still not give it to them. So you can set Bitcoin up in a way, no matter with like maybe time locks or multi-signature or however you do it, that people can break in your house and can torture you and you can say to them, you can kill me, you can torture me, but one thing I cannot do is give you my Bitcoin because I've set it up in a way that I just can't. so super sorry to say. And this is completely changing the way of like, hey, you can hold a lot of wealth and secure it in your own way and be safe with that. And that's like, it's freaking awesome.
Yeah. And it's just good privacy practices. You don't be going around telling people. And you can actually legitimately lose your Bitcoin, right? I mean, if you actually, even if you're not doing the boating accident, like pretending to have lost it, it is so easy to lose like a piece of paper or your private keys and you've lost your Bitcoin. And so nobody can really you're the only one who actually knows whether or not you have your Bitcoin. And that's a very, very, paradigm shifting, concept, from, okay, here's my suitcase filled with gold that I have buried in my backyard, and if you're under some kind of attack or you need to flee, you can't take it with you most of the time, right? So in my book, I have this thought experiment. It's a what if scenario. So what if you run through different wars through history, let's say the Second World War. What if the Jews had this kind of an invisible asset that they could just take with them across borders? What if people under Soviet communism had this kind of an unconfiscatable, censorship resistant way of transacting? So yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.